friends and family, students of the university community, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. My name is Al Lazana. I am a trustee of this university, and I would like to welcome all of you here to the Fine Arts Center here at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. We have assembled here today for what will prove to be a very stimulating, thought-provoking, and educational experience. This long-to-be-remembered occasion is being brought to you courtesy of the hard work and determination of the Black Agenda. The Black Agenda is a steering committee of organizational representatives from throughout the five-college area. The Black Agenda set out some 4 months ago to bring the minister to Amherst. And despite the countless obstacles that we had to overcome to deliver this program to you, the minister is here. I would like to say a few things that I've been waiting quite a long time to say. I would like to share with you some of my feelings about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan by telling you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a public housing project in Springfield, Massachusetts. I know Springfield is well represented here tonight. Thank you all for coming out. Now, this public housing project that I grew up in, it was paralyzed by drug infestation, crime, and poverty. I'm from a single-parent home with my mother and my 2 younger brothers. And my mother did an outstanding job of raising 3 boys, 3 not so always obedient boys. Because my biological father was a non-existent part of our family portrait, my mother had the added responsibility of both having to be a mother and a father. And I couldn't ask for a better father today than my mother. She taught us her 3 boys how to be good human beings. However, her ability to teach us how to be men was somewhat limited. I was becoming a young man, and I began to search for other father figures in my life. And there were some positive black male role models in my city. But there are few such men in my neighborhood. Somewhat like the Marines, I was searching for a few good men. A few good men to look up to. A few good men who came from a place that paralleled my own experience. A few good men who were making contributions to my community. I searched and I searched, and I found some individuals worthy of admiration. Some of them were local businessmen, ministers, and civil servants. Some of them were nationally recognized leaders of Black America. I began to draw upon the strengths of the black men that I admired, and I constructed my own image of a father. 50% of that imagery was from my mother. The rest were from such notables as Jesse Jackson, Andrew Young, Chris Parker, Muhammad Ali, LeVar Burton, Maynard Jackson, and yes, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So when I find myself in a tight spot, I tap into the oasis of knowledge and wisdom exemplified in the lives of these great men. I have interred these life lessons into the soil of my survival kit. and it has become very much a part of who I am. That's why it hurts me so dearly to witness a much misinformed, manipulated public attack and vilify Farrakhan. Because he is very much a part of who I am. I'm not the only brother or sister who feels this way. There are many of you out in the audience tonight who feel attacked because Farrakhan has made a positive impact on your life. Black people all over America feel this way. Why is it that every time we have an eloquent black leader who seeks to empower black people, they are conveniently labeled demagogues, troublemakers, anti-Semitic? These same attack words were used against Dr. King, Malcolm X, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Kwesi Mfume, the Congressional Black Caucus, Ben Chavis, and the Minister Farrakhan. Some people are suspicious, and they say that you want us to remember the horrifying episode of the Holocaust and the 6 million members of our human family who were murdered, and forget slavery and the 100 million brothers and sisters who now blanket the ocean floors. Please tell me this is not true. Please tell me that this case is not true. For if it is, there is no foundation for better relations. Over the last few weeks, since Minister Khalid Muhammad was reprimanded for his speech, I truly have recognized the extent to which the dominant society is powerful and the extent to which our black communities are powerless. The amount of money, influence, and power that it takes to launch such a massive media campaign against one man and his people totally blows my mind. Black people can't do that. If we wanted some issue that we cared very much about, headlining on every front page, television station, radio station, we could not do that. Farrakhan can't do that. You and I don't have that kind of power. Really, who are we a threat to? Case in point, you have a local Amherst branch of the NAACP who voted to send a letter to the national organization to protest what they termed as Farrakhan's support for hate. There was an article here in the school newspaper, and the headline read, "Blacks and Whites United Against Farrakhan." I sat at my desk reading this foolishness, and it really got under my skin. So I called the director of the local branch of the NAACP, and he met with me in my office. And I expressed my disagreement with him about what I had read. I said to him, people of color have been catching hell on this campus for the last 4 years that I've been here. And I haven't heard a peep from the NAACP. Please, just a show of hands, how many people didn't even know there was a branch in Amherst? Thank you. So I talked to his brother, and he shook his head in shame, and then he told me something that made my heart sink. He said, you know, there are only 3 people of color on the executive board of our local branch. And I was almost too scared to ask the next question, but I did. How many people are on the board? He told me 10. 30%, only 30% of the people on the executive board of our local branch were people of color. See how powerless we are? Black America is deeply in need of empowerment. And the guest speaker that we have for you here tonight is one black leader who has begun to effectively address this need in many ways. His initiatives to uplift black people are highly visible in our communities with programs in finance, banking, health and medicine, agriculture, real estate, crime prevention and rehabilitation, education, security, media, childcare, and business. Some of the Nation of Islam's local ministers are amongst some of the most well-respected leaders in our community. Farrakhan's service to our communities has been invaluable to the development of many young men and women like myself. He inspires us to love ourselves, while American history books still teach us that we are second-class citizens. Many of you say you support our struggle against social, psychological, and economic oppression. If you do, and I know there are some of you who do, then realize that Farrakhan empowers the disempowered, and that's us. And stop participating in this assault against our champion. Despite my appeal to you, many of you will continue to target my brother. And if you must, and I know you must, I at least ask you to have the courtesy, decency, and respect to not insist that we participate in such foolishness and expect that we will. Brothers and sisters, I have the honor of introducing to you tonight another young man like myself who has been positively influenced by Minister Farrakhan. He's a very close friend of mine and someone who to whom I hold the utmost respect. This brother has provided dynamic leadership in the Springfield community at the Dunbar Community Center, a place where I went as a young boy for well over 15 years. And now he's with us here today. He's a Project Access Assistant Coordinator of a mentorship program in Springfield. Brothers and sisters, I would like to introduce to you Corey Reinhardt.
Thank you, Al. Is this on? Okay. Because of the timing of the program, I'm going to be coming on a little bit later on, okay? Shemois is going to come up real quick, so we can just expedite this. But at the end of the lecture tonight, I want everyone to sit still because there's a program that I want to let you guys know about that we need help with. So I'm just going to turn it over to Shemois and get it started.
To the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, members of the University of Massachusetts community, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, my father, Minister Shamapande, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you. My name is Shomar Shamapande, and I'm president of the University of Massachusetts Black Student Union. To begin with, I'd like to thank all the organizations and individuals who participated in making this evening's program possible. I commend you all for not falling victim to the rhetoric of fear. On a personal note, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Douglas Greer and Fabiola Narcisse, because it is on their shoulders that I stand on this evening. I also stand before you this evening terribly troubled by what I've witnessed over the past 4.5 months we've spent putting this evening's program together. Never in my wildest fantasy would I have imagined receiving death threats, receiving other devious tactics to make this event not happen. It has become painfully obvious that we, as a community, have yet to grow enough to learn to disagree without falling into the abyss of hatred. But I think it's important that we realize that to many of us this evening, we stand here terribly humbled to have in our midst a towering black leader who stood up in tireless advocacy for the disadvantaged in our society, the black individuals who continue to exist in the shadows of American society. Yet despite the darkness of our times, our communities and its leaders have endured. I recall the first words of Thomas Mann's book, Joseph and His Brother. Very deep is the well of time. Deep indeed is the well of history, of our people's selfless struggle for social justice and freedom. Giants, heroes and heroines have come and they've gone, but their spirit endures. Names like Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, W.E.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King Jr. all answered the call to service and stood in tireless advocacy for freedom, justice, and equality. Particularly when it came to the rights of those who exist as the destitute and the disenfranchised of our families. It is in this legacy that Minister Louis Farrakhan falls heir. Like you, Minister Louis Farrakhan, those giants before you were only driven by an enduring spirit of dedication to improve the human condition and realize social justice for the people they served. Therefore, many of us feel terribly humbled in the responsibility we bear in the generation to come. I cannot adequately express how deeply honored we are to have you accept our invitation to be with us this evening. But I know in my heart that being honored by your presence is not nearly enough, Minister Louis Farrakhan. I know that invariably the question comes back to us, the members of my generation. What will we do with your message and what will we take from you, Minister Louis Farrakhan? I say that we should take from the words of Vernon Johns, who said that we should be ashamed to die until we've won at least one victory for mankind. Because ultimately history will ask us, did we stand in silent acquiescence to the present state of affairs with the human condition today? Or did we, like the champions of old, rise up and meet the moral challenge of our day? I'm referring to my generation, have inherited a nation that is bursting at the seams with poverty. History will ask us, what did we do to eradicate this poverty? We've inherited a nation full of the self-hate and self-destructive behavior that accompanies it. History will ask us, what did we do to repair this pain? We've inherited a nation with a criminal justice system, which is saturated by criminals but has no justice. What did we do during our stay on this earth to repair this system? So as we gather here this evening to listen to Minister Louis Farrakhan, it is important that we not just listen, but actively engage ourselves in self-evaluation in hopes of self-actualization, to question how we hope history will record us to generations to come. So on behalf of my colleagues and the larger University of Massachusetts community, I wish to welcome warmly Minister Louis Farrakhan to our campus.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom praise is forever due, the Creator of all things, the Revealer of all truth, the Sender of all prophets. To him alone do I submit and seek refuge. We thank Allah for his prophets and the scriptures which they brought. We thank him for Moses and the Torah. We thank him for Jesus and the gospel. We thank him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon all of these worthy servants of God. But if I lived to be 1,000, I could never thank Allah enough for his intervention in our affairs, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who was to come and has indeed come and raised up in our midst a divine leader, teacher, and guide, his messenger to us all, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I greet all of you, my beloved brothers and sisters, students, faculty, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum, which means in English, peace be unto you. To the students whose strength and courage in inviting me here has shown me that our future is great in the hands of these young people. Thank you, brother. I want to thank you for your warm and wonderful introduction, your wonderful oratory, and your soulful presentation. I ask you, as students, this is a university of higher learning, with students and faculty who seek higher knowledge. The exposition of the students and faculty to new ideas, to new thoughts, should not evoke such tremendous emotion, even hatred. If Louis Farrakhan is what the press and others have made me to be, then certainly the level of intelligence that you are being taught by your teachers, both religiously and educationally, should allow you to see me as I am. And if I am such, then you may place me in the dustbin of history as all haters and anti-Semites and violent men and women have been placed. What is the fear? Since you are students and intelligent, surely you should be able to see through the veneer of a false man if I am such. So why is there so much fear for the students to be exposed to Louis Farrakhan and his views? That doesn't make much sense. To say that student activity fees should not be used to bring Farrakhan to the campus is a denial of the rights of these young people to bring to this campus those persons whom they feel can offer something not only to them, but to you.
Yes, sir. Think about it, right?
To say to these students that activity fees of the other students should not be used is a denial of their right, because you don't ask them. When you wish to bring those to this campus who may be meaningless to them in their future, you don't ask them. And please, don't talk about student activity fees when you bring our black giant talent to this campus and use them on your football team, on your basketball team. Their talent and their genius is paying for a lot that is going on here surely then, the little fee that you're giving to Louis Farrakhan to try to make a difference with his brothers and sisters and with you is really, really nothing in comparison to what they have given to the university and what we as a people have given to America. I would like to thank the security that seems a little excessive, but I want to thank them. They know what I know not in terms of the level of threat. Thank you for submitting to a security check. It doesn't imply a disrespect of you, but the time that we live in is so strange that men and women whose ideas and persons are not loved by all are a target for assassination.
That's right.
His Holiness, the Pope, was shot while blessing a crowd in the Vatican. Ronald Reagan was shot as President of the United States as he emerged from a hotel in Washington after giving a speech. Martin Luther King was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, and Malcolm X was shot to death in the Audubon Ballroom in New York City. Men whose ideas some disagreed with. But it is so shameful that when we disagree, the only way we have to settle disagreement is through assassinating someone with whom we disagree. That means you don't have confidence in your truth. Because as sure as light vanishes darkness, truth vanishes falsehood. So if truth is with you, then you have nothing to fear from anyone who comes bringing darkness and falsehood. So the assassination of such person is unnecessary, for shining the light is sufficient. But of course, if you have been made to believe that you have light, while in fact you are in the dark, then anybody who comes shedding light on your darkness will vanish the false ideas and concepts that you hold true, that enslave you to those in power whose aim is to control your lives and your destiny. Then there's a real threat to those in power who fear your ideas. And I submit to you that if you will give me these few moments of your time to listen and to weigh me carefully, I believe you will understand why the furor over Farrakhan. I have not said anything. You have not heard anything from me. I just got into town a few minutes ago. And I turned on my television, and they said, it's a great controversy. Farrakhan, the controversial leader of the Nation of Islam. Security is tight. I have said nothing. But these who wish to paint a picture of me in your minds have had the freedom with their big brushes to paint me. Now it's my turn. What is the problem? The problem is the fear on the part of those in power of the rise of black men and women to the destiny that Almighty God has called us to. The fear is that after 430 years of evil mistreatment, injustice, and inequity, that somebody is going to come along and turn these young and older black men and women into an army of revenge against a society that has set them at naught. That is the fear. The fear is the same as it was with Pharaoh. Those of you who read Scripture, Pharaoh feared the multiplication of the children of Israel. He feared that they might join themselves on to an enemy and come against him. He knew the evil of him and his people against the children of Israel. Was his fear justified? Not really. But the guilt of the guilty makes them always feel that their wickedness is deserving of the punishment that they know should come. But Moses was not a vindictive man. Neither was Aaron, neither was Jehovah. The idea was to give Pharaoh a chance to repent and do justice by the children of Israel, that Egypt and Pharaoh might avoid total destruction. But because of Pharaoh's fear of a spokesperson rising that the children of Israel would listen to, that may change their religion, change their way of thinking, change their way of believing. Pharaoh decided, let's put a double burden on them. Let them make bricks out of straw. Spare their women, but kill all of the male children. Today in America, the black male is under siege. Today in America, because of hate, not taught by Farrakhan, but hate that has been bred into black men and women for self and for their own kind and for their origin in the world. We have been made to hate ourselves, our color, our hair, our features, our origin, so that to destroy one another is to destroy what we hate. So that today, black young men are the #1 destroyers of self. White folk are not doing to us what we are now doing to ourselves. The problem in America is crime and violence. It was the #1 topic of President Clinton's State of the Union address. It is the #1 topic on the minds of most Americans. And at the core of that crime and violence topic is the crime and violence in the inner cities of America, and particularly the crime and violence of young black males against young black males. There's more death in the black community in a non-war zone than there was or is in Lebanon or in the argument and struggle between the Irish Republican Army and the government of Great Britain. There's more death and destruction in the black community than there was in 9 years of total war in Vietnam. In 9 years in Vietnam, America lost 55,000 lives. 35% of that was black. We are only 12% of the population, so they say. But we are 35% of the casualties in war because these young black men coming out of college may not be able to get a job in the marketplace. It's very difficult to come out of here with a black studies diploma and market your skills. It is very difficult for you with the disciplines that you are involved in that are meaningless in terms of building a future for yourself and your people, to find a marketplace out there for what you are studying. This is some of you. So where will you end up when you leave with your degree thinking that you have done everything that white America says you should do? You should go to school. You should get an education. You should shun drugs and crime and violence. And you do all of that. And you're a great basketball player, a great football player, a great track star, but you miss the NBA. You miss the NFL. You miss big time. So you're in the marketplace looking for a job. Meanwhile, you found a lovely black sister that you've fallen in love with. And love begets union, and union begets offspring. But what kind of father will you be? What kind of husband will you be? With no job, no money. So the only job open is a job selling drugs or a job joining the army to be all that you could never be in the society. % of the casualties. So over a 9-year period, we lost nearly 18,000 black males in Vietnam. But last year alone, we lost over 10,000 in the ghetto wars. So over a 9-year period, we have lost over 100,000 black men in the ghettos of America. So to live where we live in Roxbury or in Harlem or Bedford-Stuyvesant or Huff or Watts or Detroit or the south side of Chicago is worse than living in Lebanon, worse than living in Vietnam. And you argue about Farrakhan teaching hate? I ask you. You belittle the intelligence of these young men and women. Why would they bring to this campus somebody to teach you hate and anti-Semitism, bigotry? Why would these young, intelligent students, the cream of the black crop, who have shunned the madness of their community, bring to this campus somebody who is going to teach them and you something so non-useful? You belittle their intelligence. And why would they suffer what they have suffered to bring me here? If they didn't believe that there was a higher purpose to Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam than what the press and many others have assigned to us. I would not waste their time, my time, or your time to come here to try and teach somebody to hate somebody else. If the 400 years of evil and injustice has not taught them to hate, then there is nothing, absolutely nothing that I could say that could outdo 400 years of evil. As a human being, I would love to see all human beings act as human beings and get along as human beings. Reality says that there are about 10% of the human family that control the lives of 85% of the human family. There's about 85%, which is the mass of every race, that is unlearned, especially when it comes to God and the true and the living God, and the nature of the law of cause and effect. This 85% are mistaught by 10% who know the truth, but hold the truth as their private domain and use their knowledge of truth to mislead the masses, so that the masses become slaves to this 10%, so that the 10% are considered the bloodsuckers of the poor, no race, no religion, just a percentage that know what is right, but refuse to teach the masses what is right. And therefore, when somebody comes to educate the masses who should have been educated by you, then there's a hue and a cry by the 10% because somebody is going to take away the foundation of their riches. Now let me make it a little clearer. What would you think of me if I were a used car salesman? And I sold you an automobile that looked real good. And after I took your money and you got in it, I kept the key. So all you could do was sit in it, enjoy what it looks like, but you couldn't go anywhere with it. You would call me a pretty, awful, ugly fella. You would bring me before the Better Business Bureau. You would accuse me of fraud and thievery, and you'd want your money back. And you'd be justified. Well, what about giving you an education, making you pay for it? No, I want you to listen. Listen, that's all I want you to do. Make you pay for an education. And then at the end of your time, you get a degree. But you are unable to use it to solve the critical problems of your day, your time, your society. Some of the brothers are studying sociology. There's definitely a sociological problem in America that the social scientists who may be your professors, who write the books that you read, can't solve.
That's right.
Isn't that something?
Yes, sir.
Some of you studying high finance. I've got my degree in finance. Who's teaching the course? Professor? You giving them degrees? Look at the financial condition of America. Can you solve it? You got a country that's $4 trillion in debt. And if Mr. Clinton is not able to get any kind of debt reduction through the policies and programs that he is initiating, by the time he leaves office, which may be sooner than some expect, America might be $6 trillion in debt, a number that equals her gross national product, which means at that time the country may be bankrupt. You talk to me. I'm concerned not only about my people, I'm concerned about a country that is the greatest country on earth that's on its way into the abyss of hell because leadership blinds the people to the real truth of what's going on in America, what is happening to this nation. So those of you in sociology, you need a little bit more than what the college is offering. That's right. And Professor, with all due respect, sir, with all due respect, the country is in trouble. And you have a responsibility to teach these young people and let them stand on the shoulders of your scholarship. Not to train them to think like you. That's right. but to train them to see beyond you. Because if the problems of America are beyond your scholarship, then to train them to acquiesce to your scholarship is to train them to acquiesce to the prevailing conditions that they will never be able to solve with what you are teaching them. All right, let's keep going. We just want to have a conversation. The hate teacher. Look at America. You have the basis of the kingdom of God right here. You have every nation, every race, every kindred, and every tongue in one nation. What's the problem? They can't get along. Farrakhan didn't start that. I saw some silly flyer. Think about that. Don't let hate divide us. Come on, have you been teaching love all these years? Have all my black brothers and sisters been experiencing the outpouring of your love? Oh, is that what it is? Have the Native Americans been experiencing the outpouring of your love? We are here at Amherst. I think this college was named after General Amherst. He was a killer of Native Americans. Of course, that's not a crime, because they're heathens. What kind of religion do you have that denigrates fellow human beings because their religious practice is different from yours? God says in the Quran, when he sends a prophet to every nation, he teaches every nation a specific way of devotion. Suppose the Native Americans' way of devotion is not your way of devotion or my way of devotion. Should we make mockery of their way of devotion simply because we don't understand it? Who arrogated to us the right to condemn others? Intolerance. Did Farrakhan bring intolerance to the American scene? Talk back to me. No, sir. No, sir. This great outpouring of love by America and her presidents for black people has caused us to live on one side of the track and they on another. That's right. Why, you act as though white and black drinking fountains was a relic of the ancient past. But that was just 30 years ago. That's all. That's right. Come on, wake up. But I couldn't go in a Christian church in the South, except I went up in the balcony. Have you forgotten? No. We were fighting and bleeding and dying for a democracy that we didn't even know the meaning of. In a segregated armed force. Was that love that divided us, or was it hate? And now you say Farrakhan is dividing you? What are you doing with truth and justice to unite human beings of various races and creeds? You talk so hypocritically about a pluralistic society. can it be a pluralistic society with a Eurocentric education? The very Eurocentricity of it, of the education, of the religion, of the politics, of the dynamics of the society, of its system of jurisprudence, says in its practice that there will never be equal respect for all of the various components that make up what is called America. The philosophy of racism and white supremacy has poisoned religion, education, economics, the social fabric, the system of justice. And until that philosophy is destroyed, that has created a white mind that feels itself superior because of its whiteness, and a black mind that feels itself inferior because of its blackness, until that kind of philosophy is destroyed, and an ideology and philosophy given to the American people that will allow us to see each other as we really are, then the talk of a pluralistic society is blowing in the wind. And I suggest to you that it is deceitful language made by that 10% who want to keep the 85% believing that you're on the road to something that you don't have the mechanism to get where they told you you were on the road. So you're sitting in the car. And it looks good, it feels good, but try to get it started, to move you down the road to your goal, and you're not getting there. There's more hate and segregation in America 30 years after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. than there was when Martin Luther King was alive. Who did that? Did Farrakhan do that? You've given my people religion for what? You teach theology. I don't know whether Amherst has a theological seminary. My brothers and sisters are busy with their Bibles, but the images in their heads are the images of white supremacists who imposed their racism on the scriptures. The very curse of Ham that has been injected into scripture, as our historical research department has unearthed in the 1977 unpublished doctoral dissertation of Dr. Harold Brackman. He said, not we, that it was certain Talmudic scholars of the Talmud, rabbis, that invented the curse of Ham myth. It's there in the Old Testament that we, through the eyes of these pseudo-intellectual anthropologists, call us the Hamitic people, as though we waited around till Ham to come into existence. See, you must be terrified that somebody knows the truth. I can understand that if you're in that 10%. Oh, the masses of you, you should rejoice that somebody knows something to free your minds. This curse of Ham, developed by scholars and imposed on Scripture, use your love of God and your love of religion as a tool to defeat you. Surely, if I am a child of Ham who laughed at his father's nakedness and drunkenness and was cursed, and the Hamitic curse is that we would be doomed by our blackness to be hewers of wood and drawers of water for the other brothers. So that means that we should have a servant attitude and mentality.
That's what they say.
And when we come out of that bag, that we don't wish to be your servant or your slave anymore, you find a way to crush the brother or the sister. This is an uppity nigger. Because he or she does not want to accept the role that you have carved out for us that makes you comfortable in your pseudo-whiteness.
Come on.
Huh? Oh, let's listen. Let's listen. We want to have a basis for dialogue.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to destroy dialogue. I want to create a proper base for dialogue, that we can sit and talk and come past falsehoods, see truth, and thereby do justice to one another. And then the wounds will begin to heal. How can they know, the scripture says, except they have a preacher? And how can they have a preacher except he be sent?
Yes, right.
The same people that put you in this condition, the 10%, are not going to send you a preacher to free you from their grip.
No, sir.
That's why nobody from these institutions have been able to free the masses.
That's right. Think about it.
You would think with all the degrees that you give out each year, you'd be giving something out that the masses could go free with this fine education. I suggest that something is wrong with an educational system that does not allow you to become a thinker, analytical, and creative, but suppresses your creativity and shapes and molds you according to books from scholars whose knowledge of the discipline is much less than absolute.
That's right.
And will not allow you to rise in your time above the scholarship of the so-called scholars, that you may write new textbooks that give a better view of life today than those who went before you. You are being trained to be herded into a political and social dynamic without being able to see it as it is or correct it as it is, but to become tools of those who control it. And if you get out of line, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Jew, Gentile, doesn't make any difference. If you get out of line with what those in power determine should be the way you think and act, and they find a way to break you. And that's why America is in the condition that it is in. It kills the best minds. It destroys those who would be thinking to lead us beyond. I grew up in the city of Boston. When I went to school, in grade school, the dumbest young man in our all-black class could read. What has happened? And we can send people to the moon and put a telescope out there and then spend some more money to go up and correct the telescope.
Think about that.
That's some very high mathematics.
Yes, it is. That's right.
And you've lost the method of how to teach young people to read? Something is wrong. And you need to wake up and see that the methodology has changed because this is the age of the explosion of information. And everything that you could want to know is somewhere in a book. But if you have no desire to read, and the curious nature of the human being to know is stunted, then you will resort to the media to get your information. And you will be like sheep, black sheep, white sheep, yellow sheep, brown sheep, Jewish sheep, Gentile sheep, Catholic sheep, Protestant sheep, Muslim sheep, herded by those who control what you read, what you see, what you hear. If you don't become a reader and a seeker after knowledge, you will become enslaved by this. And so our children are graduating from school now, functional illiterates. 30% of those who graduate in America, functional illiterates. This is not an accident. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me that education is the torchlight of civilization. If you have a good education, then the civilization that flows from that education is as good as the education. The higher the education, the higher the manifestation of civilization. But when your education begins to decline, your civilization is going down behind it. If America continues as she is going, in the 21st century, this nation will not be a superpower at all. In fact, if you take away weapons, she's lost. Because right now, she's being outthought, outmaneuvered in the workplace, in economics, by other people. And if you look at the things that make a difference in building civilization, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that mathematics is the key science. Of all building and builders, you must have proficiency in mathematics. He who is proficient in mathematics builds the civilization. All the other disciplines are the embellishment of civilization. So I don't mind, you singing. Sing. We like to hear you people sing. But you won't build any civilization as a singer, a dancer. know, you get into the cultural thing, but that's nothing wrong with that. But that won't allow you to build a civilization.
Yes, sir.
They keep you away from the building blocks of civilization. Don't get into engineering. It's too hard for Negroes. Don't get into mathematics. It's too hard for you people. You don't need to get a degree in physical education. You've been toting that barge and lifting that veil and getting drunk on weekends and landing in jail. You need a higher kind of knowledge. You need a knowledge that will allow you to become a builder and not subject to builders.
Right.
Well, where's America mathematically? According to some statistics that I saw, very alarming, 2% of blacks, 2%, graduate from high school proficient in mathematics. 2%. Hispanics, 6%. Whites, 19%. That means 81% of white youth graduate from high school with no real proficiency in mathematics. 98% of blacks get out with no proficiency in mathematics. And you know who are the most proficient in the society? The Asians. 39% of the Asians graduate proficient in mathematics. So white folks, where's all this white supremacy talk?
Come on.
You better get on the ball. Because what a revolting development that will be when your parents have told you how great you are because you're white. You know, you're the best that ever did it. And then you run into an Asian that you call a gook of this and of that, and you can't match him in nothing. The Asians are coming up in the cultural fields, in the fields of science and industry. The fastest growing economy in the world is the economy of the Asians. America's over there now, Warren Christopher in Japan saying, for God's sake, we don't want a trade war. You doggone right you don't want one.
Go ahead.
China laughing at you.
That's right.
Fall River, Massachusetts, Taunton, Massachusetts. It used to be the shoe capital of the world, right here in Massachusetts. We got all these shoes on, they're made by foreigners. Shirt on, Hong Kong. Underwear, Taipei. Sanitary napkins, Chinese. Well, what are you making? Well, oh, let's keep the niggers down. That's what we got to do. The wise in the society have you running around like a dog chasing your tail. You think blacks are the enemy. Blacks think the ignorant whites are the enemy. No! You got a ruling clique that has put the country in a condition that America can be taken.
Go ahead. Come on.
What?
Go ahead.
Yeah. You can be taken without a fight. Look at you. Look at you.
Come on, brother man.
Come to college and your social life is a disgrace. You think more about getting high and partying and sex? Who's titillating your sexual appetite that has made your sexual organs your God? Look at you. Educated? Hell no. You're allowing yourself to be mastered by your low desires. And somebody's feeding it. When I was in show business, I used to be a calypso singer. When, of course, in my younger days. And I remember appearing on television with one of these, kind of Cuban, Roomba shirts like, had a deep, cut, yeah, showing a little chest. I had a very little chest. And, when the music play, I would, get do a little move, you understand? But the cameras on television, I was on the Ernie Kovacs show this night. I never will forget. And the cameraman was not allowed to show me from the waist down because my body motion was too suggestive. But look at how the country has degenerated in just nearly 40 years. Now, oh, I remember you never would see a woman on television in her panties. Today, ain't nothing to it. You see her not only with panties on, you see her with a little thing up her backside, and she's dancing and shaking. This is television. Who got you like this? A great nation. Look at you. Like dogs. Like animals, and some of the things that you do, a dog wouldn't even do. And you call it music. You call it art. You call it entertainment. When a performer can stand on the stage in Japan and let a Japanese woman perform oral sex on him in the public, I say your world is gone to hell, and you got a nerve to look at Farrakhan? You want to keep the attention of the American people on Farrakhan, who is not the real issue. The real issue is your rotten condition. The movie industry, industry of filth. The record industry, industry of filth. And the talent of black young men and women is being used culturally to undermine the culture of every society on earth. And that's why those societies that want righteousness at their root, they won't allow you to sing or perform on stage in their countries. Russia did not allow no American performers before this thawing out. Now the country is going to hell. In Russia right now, there's more whores than there ever were.
That's right.
Yes, the country's becoming degenerate now because the ideas of the ruling clique is to make one world, all right, but one world controlled by 10%, while 85% of the masses of black, brown, red, yellow, white, Jew, Gentile, Catholic, Protestant, and Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, you're all under control, and you can't even see it. You got a nerve to say Farrakhan is not a Muslim. No, I'm not your kind of Muslim. America in control of the Islamic world. I'm not that kind of Muslim. Some of my Muslim brothers and sisters who are here, Arabs, when you come to America, you bring the beauty of Islam. You're not interested in propagating the faith.
No.
You set up a little mosque in your community, go to Jummah prayer, and read your Quran on Friday, and that's the end of it. You're busy making money.
That's right.
That's not the teachings of the prophet.
No, sir.
You know that. You know we should not submit to tyranny and oppression. You know that. You know that it is the duty of a Muslim to speak the truth against evil, regardless of whom or what. How dare you say, listen, that we got to be tolerant. You never tolerate falsehood. You never tolerate injustice, slavery, inequity. You don't tolerate tyranny.
That's right.
But when you acquiesce to get along, then your religion is under the control of the 10%. The bloodsuckers of the poor. Some of you that are here, you're being made to believe that education is given so that you can make more money. That the object of learning, the goal of learning is acquisition of more material goods. So you go out of here thinking about being a doctor so you can get more money, a lawyer so you can get more money, a chemist so you can get more money. But what is the real purpose of education? How could you be in an institution of learning and not know the aim and the purpose for education? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the aim and the purpose of God's creation of the human being with the nature to know, the hunger to know, is that we would embrace the universe and drink in its knowledge by feeding on it and grow to become a master of self and a master of the laws that govern creation, so that we become reflections of God. So the purpose of knowledge is to grow you and me from an animal level of existence to a human and divine manifestation of existence. But here you are with degrees in knowledge, but you live like animals. How can you say you are knowledgeable when your knowledge does not give you respect for another human being? How can you say you are knowledgeable when your knowledge does not allow you to respect the female? How can you say you're knowledgeable? I saw a television show one night. Mr. Morton Downey was on, and there was a white woman on his television show, scantily clad. And he called her a dirty bitch. Hurt to man his so-called intelligence, even though the woman was scantily clad and seemed to be an immoral woman. To call her a dirty bitch is to deny her right to grow from the condition that she's in. And you call yourself teachers. A teacher is one who nurtures a human being from where it was to where it should be. And that nurturing is to grow humanity from dust to the manifestation of God. That's what education is for. But if you go to college and come out and don't know what your sex is, and if anybody tells you that you should be a man, or you should be a woman, and you call that person homophobic. Oh, no.
Come on, brother.
It makes mockery of everything that God has taught. The problem is preachers preach from a self-righteous posture when there's none of us holy. No, not one. Starting from the Pope all the way down, His Holiness, but the Quran says if God were to punish man for his sins, not one soul would be left alive on the earth. So that includes the Pope, and it includes His Holiness Sheikh so-and-so, and potentate so-and-so, and President so-and-so, and King so-and-so, and Reverend so-and-so. None of us holy. So we have no right to throw off on another human being because of their deviation from the standard laid down by God. But it becomes our duty to lift the standard.
Yes, sir.
But in education today, nobody knows anymore what the standard is. Because you've become so educated that your own low desires have become the standard. Your own wicked wants have become the standard. So when somebody comes to lift the standard of God up again, you hate him. Kill him. I want you to know, from my mouth, I'm not a hater. I don't hate you because you're white. That would be silly. Because your whiteness may be an indication, historically speaking, of a historical path of evil, but it may not necessarily pertain to you.
That's right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
The history of white people on the earth and your interrelationship with the darker people has not been one of righteousness. Talk back to me.
That's right, sir.
Your history has been one of evil to the darker people. I'm speaking generally now. But within that generalization, there are always human beings who rise above and get beyond and do better than those of their parents or their relatives, and they try to outdistance history. I'm saying to you, young people, you don't have a lot of time to dilly-dally over truth and what you must do. The time is short. America is going down. Not because I said so, but because the facts say so.
That's right.
And if you want to turn it around, then don't make black people your enemy. Yes, we are angry. Black folk are angry. But don't, wait a minute. Don't act like we are wrong to be angry. Each one of you get angry at something, don't you? Is there anyone in here who has never been angry? Will your holiness please stand up? All of us get angry. And usually we get angry over someone's mistreatment of us. Don't you? Well, if black people feel we've been mistreated, and the worst part about it is our seeming powerlessness to remedy it, then that adds to anger plus frustration. Then the longer it maintains in that position, we become embittered. Then it leads to despair, extinguishing the light of hope, then violence becomes the only answer because we've become beasts now. That's the way the human family is right now. Terrorism is an act of desperation for people who have no feeling that justice will come through the means set up by society for men and nations to redress their grievances. Human beings do not ordinarily resort to terrorist activity, but when you deprive the human being of the balance that can come only by a just society, then the human being degenerates into a beast. And then this wicked action of killing innocent people to make your point. The world is full of this kind of madness. So I would like to address in my closing some solutions and the black-Jewish dialogue, if you will, and Farrakhan's being embroiled in the middle of this kind of controversy. And you can take it or leave it. I have never been anti-Semitic. I'm not now.
That's right.
I have never been anti-Jewish, and I'm not now. But I recognize something. And what I recognize that is not in the best interest of Jews or blacks, I have to speak against it. And those who fear paint me in all kinds of positions, but I'm here now to defend myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I never started any conflict with Jewish people.
The record's straight, sir.
Never.
That's right.
Never. I stumbled into it. Which I did. I fell in love with Jesse Jackson, my brother. And Jesse told me he wanted to run to be president. He asked me for my help. I said, brother, I don't know anything about politics. He said, would you help me? I said, I'll think about it and I'll let you know. We thought about it. We in Islam, we talked about it, and we agreed that we would help Reverend Jackson. When Jesse Jackson gave up his position at Push to consider running for the nomination of his party for president, he made the announcement. Everybody stood and applauded. Farrakhan sat, and the tears rolled down my eyes because I knew that the Reverend Jackson was embarking on a course that could lead to his untimely death. Some people rejoice to see a man make that kind of move. Other people who understand what that move entails are deeply sensitive to the danger. I was deeply sensitive to the danger. I had never seen a dossier on anybody by the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, until Jesse Jackson's assistant, Reverend Barrow, showed me an ADL dossier on Reverend Jackson. And in their dossier, Reverend Jackson was an anti-Semite. I want you to listen to me. That dossier was put in the hands of media so that when Jesse would speak, they would raise questions out of that dossier to keep Jesse embroiled in a conflict with members of the Jewish community that raised money, but it also would be put in a context that would cut Jesse from support from the common Gentiles of this nation. In February of 1984, 10 years ago, Reverend Jackson informed me that there were over 100 real threats on his life. He was told that by the FBI. He was frankly worried, and so was I. So at my convention of the Nation of Islam, I was introducing Reverend Jackson that year. And in my introduction, if you read my words, if you're a fair-minded person, you could never say that I was anti-Semitic. I appealed to the Jewish community. And I said to them that whenever the interests of Jews and blacks converged, blacks and Jews always worked together. But when we become of age, meaning we mature in our self-interest, we have to follow our self-interest even if our self-interest causes us to be at variance with the interests of the Jewish community. I said, Reverend Jackson is our enlightened self-interest. I said, and the way you handle him can rupture black-Jewish relations, because 90% of the black electorate was lining up behind Reverend Jackson. And members of the Jewish Defense League had interrupted Jesse Jackson's announcement of his candidacy. In Washington, D.C., I was present. I saw it. Then a full-page ad was taken out in the New York Times saying, "Ruin Jesse, ruin." Because the chant among black people was, "Run, Jesse, run." And this group called Jews Against Jesse took out an ad saying, "Ruin, Jesse, ruin." Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. In a political campaign, if you don't like your candidate or the opponent, you defeat his program, you attack him intelligently. You put an ad in the paper, ruin. What does the word ruin mean? When something is ruined, that garment that you have on, that you pay whatever you paid for it, if it is ruined, do you put it on again? To ruin Jesse was the aim of those who put that ad in the New York Times. No responsible Jewish organization condemned that ad. I want you to listen. Now I want you to hear Farrakhan. Since you heard so much about me, now hear me. And give me the same ear that you gave my detractors. When I spoke, Brother Yusuf Muhammad put my words on this campus in a flyer. Whose were my exact words? If you're sane and intelligent, there's not one anti-Semitic statement or anti-Jewish statement there. I called on the Jews to sit down and talk with Reverend Jackson if you disagree with him. I said, we can stand to lose an election, but we cannot stand to lose Reverend Jackson. I said, if any harm comes to him, he'll be the last black man that you kill. Wait, I didn't finish. No. Because that's an implied threat. I said, we don't carry weapons. We're not allowed to carry as much as a penknife. I said, but Almighty God has caused this son of ex-slaves to rise up to seek such a position. And God himself will retaliate. This is a paraphrase on my actual words, which they're out here for you to read. The next day in New York, the head of B'nai B'rith was on radio calling me the new black Hitler. Let's stop right there. Now, I grew up in Roxbury. I went to the 8th grade, the Sherwin School, Boston Public Latin, didn't make it there. I graduated from Boston English. I went to Huntington Prep School. Go and search my record. I hardly ever had a fight in my whole life. I've never been arrested. All my friends, if you talk to them, they have nothing evil to say about me. I've never been a violence-prone individual, not then, not now. All human beings, however, are capable, if pushed to that extreme. I have never said privately to my children or publicly, Jews should be exterminated. My sons and daughters have grown up in my house. They have never heard me speak of Jews or Italians or Hispanic people using slang terms like spick or kank or wop. I don't talk like that because I know what it feels like to be called a nigger all my life. But anybody that knows me from my childhood knows I was a young man of principle. And if you wanted a fight out of me, then the fight would never be on no stupid thing. It would always be over violation of a principle. That's my history. And to call me Hitler. Every young Jew in this audience whose parents or grandparents went through the Holocaust, what does it mean to them when you say, I am a Hitler? Every young Jew would hate that man and want him dead because nobody wants to see a Hitler come up again. What makes me a new black Hitler? Go ahead. We never put Jews in ovens.
That's right.
Not one black person in this audience has put a Jew in an oven. Gentiles did.
Listen.
Pope Pius XII looked the other way.
Go ahead.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt looked the other way.
Yes, sir.
You know it. Black people were your liberators from Auschwitz. The first ones in the death camp were black people. Now, Farrakhan is upset. And shouldn't I be?
Yes, sir.
Well, if somebody called you a Hitler, wouldn't you be upset?
Yes, sir.
But why did you call me Hitler? Because of my skill as an orator,
That's
unmatched.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
No vanity. No vanity. No vanity. no ego. God has given me that gift. I move people. I move people not because I move people.
Go ahead.
I move people because I'm an instrument that communicates to the nth degree to human beings and their pain. I don't need notes. I speak from the soul. And my speech is like music.
Yes, sir.
Even though it may be uncomfortable, some of the passages are so beautiful.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Because I'm not a hater. I'm passionate over the suffering of my people in particular, but human beings in general. So I was inflamed. And I, in the Final Call building, which was our first little headquarters in our effort to rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I said, so here come the Jews now calling me Hitler. I said, well, that's a good name. I said, Hitler was no good man for me. But he rose Germany up from the ashes of her defeat in World War I. Hitler, with his magnificent oratory, made a people with his philosophy and ideology of Aryan supremacy. He made a people in Germany. And it took the whole Western world united to defeat a nation of only 17 million people had the whole world shook with their genius.
That's right.
Hitler was a genius. The West had deciphered his codes. And they let whole towns be bombed so that Hitler would not know that they knew. They knew his commands to his generals. As his generals got it, they got it. And even with that, it took the combined might of all of Europe and America to defeat that man. I said he was a great man, but he was wickedly great. And I am not wrong. That's your English language.
Come on.
In the Oxford Dictionary, there are 4 pages on the word great. Only one of them, one line, says great in a way that it means something laudatory. All the rest is talking about magnitude, significance, impact. The man was great, but he was wicked.
That's right. That's right.
I can't approve of another man putting human beings in ovens.
That's right.
Men, women, children. I'm a father.
Yes,
That's right.
beautiful.
I'm a grandfather.
Beautiful.
I love my children. And when I look at Jewish children and Palestinian children growing the way they're growing to kill each other down the road, I'm hoping that some way we can break that chain. And I know that the only thing that will break it is truth and justice. But because Zionists saw a threat in Reverend Jackson's appeal, since Reverend Jackson had embraced Arafat several years before Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres. Jackson was hated for embracing Arafat. And since it was feared that Reverend Jackson, if given a platform, could disturb the delicate balance between the blacks who were all pro-Israel to turn black people maybe to a pro-Palestinian stance, then to that degree it was in the Zionist self-interest to destroy the candidacy of Reverend Jackson by any means necessary. And so they, when I said Hitler was great, headline came up in the New York Post. Jackson pal hails Hitler. And just check it. Now, Farrakhan is the whipping boy. They're beating the hell out of me to get to Jesse. After a while, Jesse can't take it anymore. He repudiates Farrakhan, leaving me out there now by myself. It's all right, though. It's all right. I didn't come in the world with no twin. I don't need an army behind me to stand up for what I believe. I was made that way. And as long as God is with me, then I'm never alone. So now I'm out there. I refused to divide the black people who were behind Jesse, who loved Farrakhan. I refused to speak evil against my brother because he had repudiated me. This is history. And when I learned that the Senate had condemned me and repudiated me, a vote of 95 to nothing, a white Senate, no black people in it, representative government, had repudiated me for allegedly calling Judaism a gutter religion, which I never did. Which I never did. That's right. I'm a man that is not afraid to tell you that I said that. That's right. Because anything that I say, I back it up. And if I can't back it up with truth, I'll apologize to you for so stating or being in error. I think that's the proper thing to do. But I never said that. And you know what's worse? It's 10 years now. And every time they write about Farrakhan, the man that called Hitler great and Judaism a gutter religion, that's the way they put me before you. Well, since black folk are natural liars and cowards, then my saying, I didn't say that, here's what I said and here's what I meant, oh, that don't mean anything to you. So you never took what I said to have any weight at all, because what you say is the truth. And whatever a black man says in defense of himself, he's only trying to get out from what his own mouth has spoken. You don't know me, but you getting acquainted with me. I think you know now. You'll have to kill me to get me to back down from truth. And I'm telling you today at Amherst, don't even think about it. For 10 years, I've been in this struggle. For 10 years, I have tried to sit down and dialogue with the Anti-Defamation League. For 10 years, I've asked them, let's sit down and talk. That's the civilized thing to do. When people have a genuine disagreement, sit down and talk about it. They refuse. Rabbis come to my door, sit at my table, we have dinner, we talk candidly and frankly, we embrace each other. But the rabbis have no power with these organizations that are politically inspired Zionist organizations. They don't have any power. So even though we come to some agreement, the ADL has never agreed to sit down with me. Fine. I ain't begging you to sit down. I think it's intelligent because you don't want it to go too far. You don't want it to get that far. You got sense. You thought that when the media attacked me, Farrakhan was going to dry up and blow away? Not this one. You could blow away them others, but not this one.
That's right.
Because the media didn't make me. I'm not a creature of the media.
Right.
So since the media didn't create me, the media can't break me.
That's right.
I guess you've learned that by now. The more you attack me, the bigger God makes me grow. And you haven't learned your lesson yet.
Go ahead.
But I thank you, media. You really are wonderful. No, I'm serious. I'm not being facetious. They're really wonderful. No, you really are. I mean, I respect you to the highest. Whatever you say about me, it's all right. You can cuss me out line by line, word by word, and that's what you do. But my teacher taught me, son, every knock is a boost. And evidently it's true. So here we are now. Police all around, SWAT team, bomb squad, mounted police. Farrakhan got to bring 100 security people. For what? For what? Because one black man stood up to speak truth as he understood it and wouldn't back down. And some of those in positions of power in the Jewish community feel that black folks should back down. Feel that we should bend and bow and scrape and scratch. You still bugged out over that Hamitic thing. Ham don't have no relationship to me. I am not one of the sons of Noah. I was before Noah. I was before Abraham. I was before Adam. Don't give me no Johnny come lately as my father, because I know the history now. And if you scratch me, not scratch me, I mean push me, I'll be glad to tell you, not only where I'm from, but where you're from too. Yeah? Some of you were when Malcolm was alive. Professor Bill Strickland. Malcolm didn't come out of Harvard, but he beat everything that Harvard put in front of him. You know why? Harvard don't train you how to think beyond them. Elijah Muhammad took Malcolm out of the box. He had an 8th grade education, but he read everything and could read into things. And therefore his education made him a superior mind. Bill Strickland, as I know him, is far beyond what Harvard makes. And our wonderful brother and professor at Wellesley, Professor Tony Martin, is far beyond what this world makes. Leonard Jeffries is far beyond what this world makes. And whether you like it or not, Dr. Khalid Muhammad is far beyond what this world makes. So what are we going to do now? What are we going to do? Where is this going to lead? You insult me with a cover on Time magazine, and you insult black people. You say that 70% of black people that you polled say that I have a message that America should hear, and then you say he spews venom and hatred against Jews and white people. 67% of those whom you polled said he's an effective leader. 63% said they believe he tells the truth, and 54% believes he's a role model for their children, but he spews hate. What are you saying about black people? Have you ever found a black person with putting a swastika on a synagogue? Talk to me. Have you ever heard of a black person going into a Jewish cemetery, upsetting Jewish graves? Never. But you call them anti-Semitic because they listen to me. Well, are you Semitic? See, Semitic, somebody that deals with the Afro-Asian cultures and languages of the Middle East. But just because you learn Hebrew don't make you Hebrew. And just because I learn Chinese don't make me Chinese. I just speak Chinese. You go to Israel right now, the people ruling in Israel are not the Sephardim or the Asiatic Jews. It's Europeans. And the Sephardim and the Falasha and the Hebrew Israelites in Israel, they haven't had an easy time under European Judaic rule because racism is present there. The Falashas were brought there, but the rabbis and religious leaders among the Falashas were not recognized by the rabbis in Israel. They wanted to make them come through them before they're recognized. Oh, wait a minute, who preceded whom? You ain't the first Jew.
That's right. Wake us up.
The original Jews are black.
Right.
No. The original Arab is black.
That's right.
The original people of the earth are black. I'll let you ask me a question. I saw black people in the Arab world, in Palestine, in Syria, in Iraq, that had been there from time immemorial. They don't bring those kind to America.
That's right. Come on.
They bring the lighter skinned kind here
That's right.
to make you think that all Arabs are light skinned, when in fact you have Arabs who are black, brown, red, yellow, even up to white. Well, now, the other day, some of my brothers were praying in Hebron.
Come on. Teach on that.
And a young man from New York what's his name? Goldstein? Baruch Goldstein. Killed them while at prayer.
Come on.
And when he was killed or killed himself and they were burying him, the rabbi said that his fingernail, 1,000,000 Arabs were not even worth his fingernail. Now listen to me. That's hate.
That's right.
That's bigotry. Will the real anti-Semite please stand up? The Arabs are a Semitic people. I'm going to say it again. The Arabs are a Semitic people. I have excellent relationships
That's right.
with my Arab, Muslim, and Christian brothers. But I'm anti-Semitic. So your bigotry says you are the really the only Semitic people. That's terrible.
Think about that. Yes, it is.
And listen to this. Mr. Foxman didn't take out an ad
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. That's right.
condemning that evil.
That's right.
Did he?
No, sir.
I have not heard one rabbi speak out and say that was a wicked thing to do, to kill human beings while they're praying. I haven't heard Reverend Jackson push Foxman to renounce and repudiate what the rabbi in Israel said. I haven't heard none of the black leaders that repudiated Brother Khalid stand up and say, this is wrong and you should condemn it. Double standard here.
That's right, sir.
So an Arab is alleged to have shot at a caravan of buses and wounded some Jewish students, and one has passed. And the tensions are high. But they want that young man tried as a terrorist.
Right, right,
Because if you kill a Jew,
right.
you deserve to die.
That's right.
See, there's a racism there that's unbelievable. There's a depth of feeling about oneself that you are so great
Yeah.
that if anything happens to one of you, 100 others must die. I understand the principle, but it don't apply to you. I understand the principle. Because if you're really the beloved of God, anyone who harms you, God will be displeased with them. But that's a theological debate that we are ready to undertake at any time.
That's right. That's right, sir.
Because we don't believe that.
That's right. That's right.
We believe that the people of God who fulfill all the prophecies of your Bible from Genesis to Revelation and the Quran are in your midst.
That's right.
They're the despised and the rejected, the unloved, the unwanted. But yet, God has chosen them for his purpose. Let me see if we can prove this. I have Muslims here who read this book, Quran.
Yes, sir.
And I have Christians who read the Bible. We have Jews who read the Torah. Fine. Let's use all three books. I won't be long. I won't be long. I won't be long. You spending the money, you might as well get your money spent. And the next time you pay President Reagan $45,000 and $50,000 and $60,000 for him to shake through a speech, that nobody here can use. And you think about the little money you're donating to my cause or our cause and feel ashamed of yourself for acting the way you act over this little cheap bit of money.
That's right.
What I'm telling you will save your life.
That's right.
I'm almost there. Now, these black people that are so disrespected by the world and so disrespectful of self have a divine destiny. You're a wonderful people, destroyed, but even in your destruction, there is a beauty that emanates from you that makes you like the salt of the earth. To the members of the Jewish community who are in the audience, you know, the history of Israel that is found in the Bible and Quran says that God has been so wonderful and merciful to you that every time you deviated, God would spank you, forgive you, send you a prophet, bring you back. You should be the most forgiving people on earth for the forgiveness and mercy that God has continued to show you. So for you to take such a hard, recalcitrant, unyielding attitude that you will never forgive and never forget, when you look at what has been poured on black people, and you look at the spirit in them to forgive everybody except themselves.
That's right.
They're very loving people. If we were not, we would have been killing white folks and can't get done. If we were like you think we are, we would be so bitter and enraged that we would just be just a killing field. But that's not black people. We've become pretty rough, though. But you can't do nothing with them. You don't know what to do with black people. They've become a problem that you don't have any ability to solve. All your psychology is out the window. All you know can't help them. You're angry with me and with us because we can do what you can't do. We can raise our people up. We do it every day. We civilize our people. We make our people righteous. Why don't you let us have our people and make them into the great nation that they can become? Instead of fighting Farrakhan, you should help me.
Yes, sir.
And you would help yourself in so doing. Look at your Bible. The people of God were a people that were in bondage in a strange land under a strange people for 400 years. Abraham was told by God in the book of Genesis, know of a surety, Abram, that your seed is going to be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But after that time, I will come, and I will judge that nation which they shall serve. And afterwards shall they come out with great substance and go to their fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. Well, both the Bible and Quran speak of a man coming that would be a man like Moses.
Yes, sir.
Well, you don't need a man like Moses except you have a condition
Yes.
and a people and a slave master, as Moses confronted. All right. Now we're moving along. The suffering of the children of Israel under Pharaoh went along for 400 years. God shows up. Both Bible and Quran talk about the presence of God. He comes. The Bible says he came. Moses saw a fire. And he went to the fire. And God spoke to him out of a burning bush. Well, the bush is on fire, but it doesn't burn. Symbolic language has deep meaning. It means that when God comes, he is furious. But he is controlled in his anger, that he's not consumed by it. So the bush doesn't burn, meaning God is enraged at the suffering of his people. And his words are, I have come down to see whether the cry is what I have heard. I have heard your moaning and your groaning because of your taskmaster. So it is not that Moses is standing there rapping and God is not with him. There's a God with that man. And as that man begins to speak, he goes to Pharaoh and says, hey, Pharaoh, I know you want to integrate the people. But Pharaoh, it ain't time for that. Moses said, Pharaoh, let them go into a land of their own. God wants to make a nation out of them for his glory. Pharaoh didn't like that. Pharaoh played like he wanted to integrate them. So 10 plagues hit Egypt, written both in the Bible and Quran. The last plague was the plague of death. And after that, Pharaoh said, take them and get out of here. And then he decided to kill him.
Yes, sir.
And that's when he got it. When he decided he had had enough of Moses, God had had enough of him and wiped him out and left him as a sign. For who? For who? For who? Jesus appeared in the Roman Empire. The multitudes began to follow Jesus according to the book. The authorities didn't like it. People saying, Hosanna. And the more the people clamored over Jesus, the authorities got very much upset. And they said, You got to get him before the whole world goes after him. So they set up some false witnesses. They drug him into court.
Yes, sir.
And they put him on a tree or a cross. And from that you get 700 million Christians on the earth. 7 centuries later, in Arabia, a great prophet arose, Muhammad ibn Abdullah.
Yes, sir.
Peace be upon him. This book, Quran, was revealed to him over 23 years. The Arabs were in a condition in Arabia like we are in America right now. That is called in Arabic Jahiliyyah, the stage or the days of ignorance of the Arabs. The Arabs were drunkards. They were disrespecters of their women. They were lovers of poetry, and they loved their orators, but they were an unlearned people. Unlearned people. They were divided into tribes, and they couldn't find any unity until Prophet Muhammad was risen up among them, and the prophet in 23 years united the Arabs under Islam, cleaned them up from their ignorance and their savagery, and made them the world rulers. Islam spread from Arabia into Africa. The blacks in Africa found in the teachings of the prophet not some new religion. They found that which agreed with their nature. So the blacks in Africa accepted Islam and accepted the leadership of Prophet Muhammad. And the blacks in Africa became the warriors and scholars too, and pushed Islam across the Mediterranean, into France, into Spain, into Portugal, into Sicily and southern Italy, even up to the gate of Vienna. These were what you call blackamoors or Muslims. They were black people. This is why some of you Spaniards are dark. Some of you Sicilians are dark. Some of you in southern France are dark. But the blacks who were Muslims intermixed with you, taught you the science, set up libraries, taught you how to take a bath. Now I want you to listen, man. The Muslims control the Mediterranean, the waterways from Europe to the Far East. And they were fierce warriors. The wars that took place between Christians and Muslims over the Holy Grail or over Jerusalem have put bitterness between Muslims and Christians. So when Christopher Columbus went to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, he wanted to find a new route to the east because the Muslims were controlling the old route. So he was backed and he went west and discovered America with people here. I want you to hear me. According to history, there were over 15 million Indians in the Caribbean. There's hardly one there today. Gone are the Carib Indians. Go ahead. What happened to them? They were killed. They opened the door to Christians, and the Christians killed them. in the name of the King, in the name of Jesus Christ. Talk to me. Since they had wars with Islam, they did not want Muslims in the Western Hemisphere. So many of the slaves that were brought out of Africa to come into the West were Muslims. We believed in Allah. We believed in the Prophet Muhammad. We followed the Quran. We knew the scriptures. But the West was not to have Muslims in it because they felt that Islam stimulated the natural militant propensities in black people. And they did not want a militant black man. They wanted a docile slave. Now. When I said that some Jews were involved in the slave trade, they attacked me so viciously, like I said something wrong. So my brothers, seeing the attack on me and sisters in Boston, formed the Historical Research Department. And they went digging, not in our libraries, in yours. And they found Jewish historians, rabbis, scholars who confirmed what I had said and gotten attacked for. That Jews were heavily involved in the slave trade. Yes, Gentiles were involved. Yes, Africans were involved. Yes, Arabs were involved. Yes, some Muslims were involved. Yes. Everybody of the world had a part in that slave trade. Well, then why are you focusing on Jews? Because in the books that we read, we always read it was Arabs. We always read it was Gentile white people, but we never read where the Jews had a hand. So it is our duty to tell the truth, because in this day and time, everybody that had a hand in bringing this people down got to have a hand in helping us up, or God will punish all. I'm almost finished.
Go ahead. Take your time. Take your time.
No school tomorrow, we're in school tonight. Now, you know the story of the Incas and the Mayans, the gold that they had, all of that taken and sent back to Europe. Indians, called Indians, killed. They had brilliant civilization. The Incas, the Mayans, brilliant. Aztec, gone. But everywhere Europeans went, they found some people already there. So we were brought. Now, some of our African brothers sold us into bondage. That's written in the book too. We fulfilled it. They can't get away today. You got a role to play. I'll get to your role in a second. Now, when Muslims showed up, they were frightened. So the Muslims had to be killed. You remember that old Negro spiritual, couldn't hear nobody pray? See, when the Muslims pray, as you in Christianity, you hear a bell to call you to prayer, right? In the Jewish faith, you hear a ram horn that called the faithful to prayer. But in Islam, it's the human voice. So you hear the muezzin 5 times a day. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is great. So they separated the parents from the children. If the children could hear the prayer, they could know the name of the God. So they killed any of the children that they found reciting the name of Allah, so they just couldn't hear nobody pray. They killed the parents. That's how you grow up with no knowledge of your language. Everybody else in here that's tied to Europe got a name that ties them to their people, a language that ties them to their people, a history and a culture. You are the only people that don't have a native language that ties you to Africa and your original roots. You ain't got it. Why? How did you lose your tongue? You lost your tongue because you lost your mother. Mother gone, father gone, a motherless child sees what? A hard time. This is what the slave masters did. See, what they want to show is Schindler's List. I ain't got no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I think we all ought to see what human beings are capable of doing when they hate. I can understand that. See, we don't own ABC, CBS, CNN. We could if we did better by our money. I'll talk about that in a second. So you don't have nobody to tell your story. So don't get angry because Schindler's List is out there. Nobody wants to talk about what happened to black people. And because I said that the Holocaust of black people was 100 times worse than the Holocaust of Jews, they were angry with me for even comparing this. And it is because you feel that your life is so much more sacred than the lives of the Goyim or the lives of the Gentiles or the lives of the Asians, Arabs, and Africans. Millions of us lost our lives in that middle passage. And according to what our research says, a one-time president of the American Jewish Historical Society, Mr. Friedman, Dr. Friedman, he wrote that the bulk of the slave trade in Brazil was in the hand of Jewish settlers. I didn't say it. He said it. The largest population of blacks in the Western Hemisphere is in Brazil. Well, if your hand is in it, admit it, man. The children of Jews today didn't do it. Admit it. And then let's take corrective steps. Don't say that man is a liar, he's anti-Semitic, he's anti-Jewish, when everything we wrote in the book is from your own scholars. What is the matter with you? Barbados, according to your own scholars, not one Jew in Barbados was without slaves. In Curacao, in Suriname, and throughout the colonies in the Caribbean, Jews owned slaves. That's right. In the South, 75% of Jews owned slaves, while 36% of the Gentiles owned slaves. So when it came time for President Lincoln to have a union because he did not want slavery, if slavery would unite us, he wanted slavery. But if slavery would divide us, he wanted a united America. And since many Jews owned slaves, they did not want union, and they spoke for secession. Talk to me. And it provoked a civil war where millions were killed. This is not my history. This is what your scholars have written.
Go ahead.
Abraham Lincoln killed. And there's a cloud over his death. Because anybody that seemed like they would do something in favor of black people was an enemy to those who made merchandise of us. Who fought against the freedom fighters that arose in the Caribbean. It was the same that owned the slaves. You attached yourselves to us. We were the bodies that reaped down your fields.
Right.
We were your pleasure. Our women were your plaything.
That's right. Yes, sir.
That's why there's so many black men that look like me.
That's right.
You didn't marry us. We weren't worthy to be married by you. You slept with us.
Right.
You forced us to mate with each other like dogs. And now you talk about how immoral we are.
Tell it.
But for 300 years, the black man was used like a stud horse.
Right. Right. Go ahead.
You forced him to go and lay with a black woman. She didn't have any feeling for him, but it didn't make a damn bit of difference. Lay with her and produce a baby. Don't you realize that when a woman has no feeling for a man and she receives life from him, she got to carry that life in her womb and don't love the man? Then she's making a child that will hate itself. Listen to me. You ruined the whole nation of people, and now you want to hide your hands like you did nothing. But I'm here today by the help of Almighty God, and I will not let you get away with that. You work of people from early morning to late at night picking cotton. We get no wages. You hold back whatever wealth we produce for you.
Right.
You share it with your children, but not with the children who reap down your fields.
That's right.
If any of us talk like we wanted freedom, you kill us, beat us, drive fear into us, so that the babies drank the milk of fear from their mother's breast. Do you know what it means when a mother is afraid and is nursing a baby from a breast where the chemistry of her thoughts become the chemistry of the milk? And that's why these black people shake when there ain't nothing to shake about. That's why they scratch when they ain't got nothing to itch about. They are scared to death people. And that's how you control black people. Because they're nursed on the milk of fear. So when you meet a black man who's unafraid of you, who becomes a lion to roar to the lions who are asleep, now you want to kill him. Because he will wake up his people. 300 years you lock your Bible.
Right.
Lock it won't allow us to read.
That's right.
When it's a human right to know, to learn, you deprive us of learning. One of your men in the Virginia House of Delegates said he had extinguished every avenue by which light could enter into the slave's mind. He wanted us to perpetually be on the level of an animal so that we would forever be under the control of our oppressor. This is not something I'm making up. This is real, white students. This is what happened to every one of these. And this is why they don't do what others do, because they've been crippled and broken.
Right.
But I got within me what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was given by God to raise every one of them up. And you should not hinder me because you can't do it. Don't know how to do it. You should help me raise my people up. In the late 1700s, you saw that it was not incompatible for us to be Christians and slaves at the same time. So you let us into the church. But it was a black church in the fields. And you took the more intelligent ones among us and you made us the preacher. And if we preach right, we could come through the back door of the big house and get a buttered biscuit and a piece of fried chicken. And that's the way many preachers are today. They go by the house of their slave master for buttered biscuit and a piece of fried chicken. You got the preachers under your control. You got black leaders under your control because you made them, you taught them, you shaped them to be perpetual slaves and apologists for the evil of white people against them. So the sermon was, don't steal your master's corn. Don't steal your master's pig. Be good to your master. And if they smite you on one cheek, be sure to turn the other. Love them that hate you, bless them that curse you. That was the doctrine. To hell with the rest of the scripture. Just be a good nigger and teach your niggers to be docile. This is what they were taught. When some whites would try to teach us how to read, they were beaten. Some whites would teach us things that they didn't want us to know. Some of them were killed. There's always been a few that could see beyond that this is a terrible thing that was done. George Washington, your first president. You notice I don't hear no white people named Washington. But look at all the black Washingtons you got in here. You know why we're Washington? Because Washington had a host of slaves. Lincoln, Jackson, Jefferson, all of them slave masters. And when they wrote the Constitution, we believe that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And toward this end, governments are formed, huh? You were not speaking of us. We were your footstool then. You have never believed that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness belongs to black people otherwise. We wouldn't be singing in 1994, "We shall overcome." When your European counterparts come to America, they learn McDonald's. They learn apple pie, and they learn how to say nigger before the first month that they're here. It's a hell of a thing that's happened to a people. And every leader that rose to try and do something good for us that white America didn't sanction, that leader was destroyed. Yep, you didn't like W.B. Du Bois. You didn't like Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Harriet Tubman. You didn't like none of them that we talk about now in Black History Month.
Yes, sir.
How nice of them to give us a month to reflect on ourselves. A whole month. And then don't want you to bring somebody that can make your month meaningful. You want them to bring professors that profess what they profess. You want the students to bring people who won't agitate them to a higher standard of morality. Won't encourage them to take their destiny into their own hands. Shame, shame, shame. In the Civil War, blacks fought on both sides. We were slaves, poor things. We fought on the side of the North. We felt for good reason. We fought on the side of the South for good reason. Slave master said, fight. We fought in the Spanish-American War. We fought in the war that got you Texas from Mexico. We fought in your First World War, Second World War, Korean conflict, Vietnam, only to come back home to be called nigger, shot down by police. I thought that he had a knife in his hand. The government of the United States of America has been the worst enemy of black people. No, that's a government that takes your tax dollars and the FBI uses it.
That's right. Yes, sir.
To undermine black leaders, to destroy them. So for 400 years, we have been here, afflicted. And for 400 years, we've tried to join ourselves on to be a citizen, though we're not quite accepted as such. And so God has heard our moaning and our groaning. And just as an ancient Moses was raised up in that ancient land of bondage, God promised that he would raise one up for us.
Yes, that's right.
And I say to my Muslim brothers, sisters, who say that Prophet Muhammad is the end of all the prophets and that there's no messenger after him, I want you to consider the condition of the Arab and Muslim world.
Right, sir. Right.
It's all torn apart with schism and division. You wouldn't say, guide us on the right path, if you didn't want to be guided to the right path.
That's right.
And you wouldn't need to be guided to the right path if you stayed on the path that Prophet Muhammad put us on. But the Muslim world has deviated. The Christian world has deviated. The Jewish world has deviated. The world of religion and the world of politics makes humanity look as though no righteous teacher has ever been among us. The whole Western hemisphere has been a barrier toward Islam. You did not want Islam in America. Now, Islam is here.
Right. Yes, sir.
And it has made us militant again. Islam gave you Marcus Garvey.
Yes, sir. Right.
Because Marcus Garvey didn't become Marcus Garvey until he met with Deuce Muhammad, a Muslim who inspired him. And Mr. Garvey came to make black people nationalistic in their thinking. Yes, yes, yes. You like Malcolm? Yes. Malcolm energized black America, but he was a Muslim. That's right. And we killed him? Is that what you said? Okay, I want you to hold your mouth. I'll be right with you in a minute. You know I got to answer you, brother. You know I have to answer you. You know, seriously, brothers. Say, no. I think brother raised a very good point. And I'm not mocking that point, brother, because that's the most critical and serious aspect of the nation's history. And I don't think I should leave here tonight and not address that critical question. So, after 400 years, we believe that Allah chose us not to be arrogant, egocentric, not because we're black, but he chose us out of our suffering to make of us a people that would call humanity back to the path of God. Even as it was an African Ethiopian Bilal who was the first muezzin or caller to prayer for the prophet. And even as Prophet Muhammad said, he heard the footsteps of Bilal going into paradise ahead of his own. To understand it, it means, from our vantage point, that black people in America, who are the lost people, the lost sheep, the prodigal son, that God would raise us up, and because of our suffering, he would purify us and give us a wisdom that would enable us to call not only our people, but the whole human family back to the path of God. Now, that work, we believe, began with the raising of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that man, Elijah Muhammad, whether you like him or don't like him, he is a profound historical figure because we can't seem to put him aside, because somehow or another his students keep rising up, commanding the public attention. It's more than the students. It's something about that teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's something about that teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I, Louis Farrakhan, met Malcolm in Boston in 1952 or 3. He had just come out of prison, and he was teaching in Boston, and I was playing at a nightclub on Mass Avenue called Eddie Levine's nightclub. And there was a little restaurant across the street called the Chicken Lane where I used to go and have chicken. And this day, a friend of mine said, I want you to meet somebody. And there was this tall, light-skinned brother with a brown tam and a brown long coat and brown gloves and brown shoes and a big, broad smile. And it was Malcolm X. And I was a little afraid of him because I heard he was talking bad about white people. And so I shook his hand quickly and went into the Chicken Lane. And I didn't see Malcolm anymore for a while. And then one day I was playing in a nightclub in Chicago in 1955, and it was during their annual Savior's Day convention, and I heard Elijah Muhammad. I can't tell you that I understood everything he said. He didn't speak as a student coming out of college or university. And I criticized the way he spoke. And he looked up where I was sitting and he said, "Brother, I didn't get a chance to go to school like you." He said, "Don't pay no attention to how I'm saying it. Pay attention to what I'm saying. And then you put it in that fine language that you know. Try and understand what I'm saying." I accepted to follow Elijah Muhammad, not because I wanted to become other than a Christian. I grew up in Christianity, but I saw that Christianity was not addressing the problem of liberation. And so I was looking for somebody who would address that problem.
Yes, sir.
And when I found Elijah Muhammad, I found the man that I was looking for all my life. Since I was living in New York, I went to Mosque number 7, and I became a student under Malcolm X. He became the father that I never had and the brother, the big brother that I never had. And I learned much from him. But the one thing he taught me was loyalty to the man who taught us all. And there would come a time in that history when Malcolm would see fit to leave the Nation of Islam. And when Malcolm saw fit to leave the nation, Malcolm and I sat together. I won't take you through the conversations, all of them, that we had. But Malcolm mentioned to me something in the personal life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was angry because he felt that Elijah Muhammad was jealous of him, and he felt that some of the leaders in the nation were jealous of him. And he just did not wish to continue anymore. In his anger, he mentioned to me this aspect of Elijah Muhammad's personal life. I was, needless to say, upset, shocked. And I went back to Boston that night as I was the minister in Boston, and I could not sleep. But the next morning, I took this book, Quran, and I opened it. And I just happened to open it to the 33rd surah, or chapter. And in that chapter, it began to speak of the wives of Prophet Muhammad, and how God had given Muhammad and made lawful for Muhammad 9 wives. He had 11, and when God gave him that number 9, he reduced the 11 to 9. One of his wives was a pre-teenager. Her name was Aisha. And of all of the history that's written of Prophet Muhammad, Aisha, the youngest wife that he had, became the one wife that knew the Prophet, it appeared, the best. She is honored and revered along with all of his wives in Islamic history. In America, under Christianity, we're only permitted one wife, but many sweethearts.
Come on. Say it again.
So although we talk monogamy, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. You know, as Jews, that all of the prophets of God had more than one wife. The father of the righteous, Abraham, who is considered the father of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, had more than one wife. He's buried in the Holy Land with his 2 wives by his side. David, the prototype of the Messiah, had many wives. When God chooses one, he doesn't just choose that one and make a covenant with that one. He makes a covenant with that one, but also with the seed of that one. Malcolm knew that these were wives of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We discussed this. But Malcolm also knew that the mass of America did not know anything of Islam and more than one wife. And we in the nation didn't know about Elijah Muhammad's wives. Why? If he's doing right, why did he keep it a secret from us? It's a good question.
Good teacher. Make it. Come on. Make it.
I just told you how we were used as studs. Elijah Muhammad was cleaning us up from a low life and made us to commit our lives to that one woman who was our wife.
Yes, that's right.
And that was a struggle against our desires, but we fought, many of us, and we made it. To prematurely bring us into the light of his relationship would give us a signal and could break us down that we might begin to use women as we once did. So all of these things should be known, but at the proper time and under the right circumstances. Now, dear brother, when you go and you look at one of the documentaries, I think the one that's out now on Malcolm is one of the best that I've seen, called Minister Malcolm Make It Plain. That is about the best documentary that I have seen on Malcolm. And if you watch that documentary, you will see that as Malcolm left the nation, he began to speak against the messenger. Then we began to speak against him. I was foremost in speaking against Malcolm out of my love for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and my hurt at Malcolm's deviation from his teacher. But in my speaking against Malcolm and our speaking against Malcolm, we created an atmosphere that allowed Malcolm to be assassinated. The incitement was Malcolm's saying, and I'm quoting Malcolm now, Elijah Muhammad fathered children from his teenage secretary. That to me is not truth, it is slander. He knew the truth, but he didn't put it as one who followed Elijah Muhammad would. These were his wives. He didn't give them the nobility of being wives. He made it appear as though the man that picked him up from his low life and taught him and gave him a platform that the NAACP, the Urban League, the church would never have given Malcolm with his past. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad never cared about what we were. It was what we are. And I'm telling you, dear brother, out of our love for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that love for Elijah Muhammad produced hate for Malcolm for what we saw Malcolm doing to that man in whom we felt the whole salvation of black people was at stake. So many of us wanted to hurt Malcolm, and that is the truth. That is the truth. But Elijah Muhammad said to us, leave Malcolm alone. Leave him to Allah. And those of us that loved him obeyed him. But among every society where there's a divine leadership, there are zealots. And if you pick up your scripture and read, David had a son that rose up against David. The Jewish students of scripture in here and the Christian students, follow me. That son's name was Absalom. That son fought his father, but the father loved the son and told the soldiers when they were going out to fight his son, capture my son, but don't kill him. Don't harm him. Bring him to me. But his captain, a man named Joab, when they caught Absalom, the book says he was swung up in a tree by his hair. Joab, so incensed at what Absalom had done to his father, his anger, his zeal, caused him to rebel against his father's or his leader's instruction, and he speared Absalom through. And when all of Israel was rejoicing that Absalom had been defeated, David was in his tent crying, saying, my son, my son, my son. My last conversation with Malcolm went something like this. He said, brother, I wish it were you being an example for me rather than me being an example for you. He named his enemies within the movement and told me to watch out for them because they soon would become my enemies. It seemed as though Malcolm knew and understood that I would one day be where he desired to go. And that the same enemies that were his would one day be mine. I didn't know it then like I know it now. Malcolm was killed, murdered in the Audubon Ballroom. Some members of the Nation of Islam were involved. But I raise this question to you. Malcolm's home was firebombed the week before. Malcolm went to the police and sought protection. Why was there no protection in the Audubon Ballroom that day? There were plainclothes policemen there, but not one uniformed policeman was in that ballroom. Why was it that day Malcolm did not search the people who came in? Why were 2 men arrested at the scene and only one was brought to trial? What happened to the other man that was arrested at the scene? Go look it up. The 2 men that were taken from the ranks of the Nation of Islam, I believe with all my heart, had nothing to do with the assassination of Malcolm X. They spent 26 years of their life in prison for a crime that they did not commit. The one man that was found at the scene, who was in fact one of the perpetrators, said at the trial, these two are innocent. They were not the ones who did it. And when the judge asked him to name those who did, he didn't. But later, he named all five. And Kunstler, who became the lawyer for those in prison, could not get the government to reopen the case. Why? Now, brothers, sisters, you know that in those days, every black organization was infiltrated with agents.
Yes, that's right.
And you would be foolish to think that the Nation of Islam, which was the most disciplined, well-organized body of black men and women in America, did not have agents among us. And when Malcolm separated, some agents went with Malcolm, some stayed in the mosque. Now, could it be that some of the zealot Muslims, along with agents of the federal government, were a part of this?
Yes, sir.
I can't say that Muslims weren't involved. That would be a bold lie. But to say that the nation killed Malcolm is to say that every Muslim who was in the nation was a party to Malcolm's murder. I think you're taking that a bit far. Any more than you don't want us to blame all white people for what some white people have done to us. Why should the whole nation be blamed? Now, Malcolm became a follower of Prophet Muhammad. I don't understand this. I told Spike Lee, Spike, I said, if Malcolm left Elijah Muhammad because Elijah Muhammad had wives, why would he follow Prophet Muhammad who had more wives and a pre-teenager? It don't make sense. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. And now, brothers, sisters, some of you that were here during that time, I know Professor Bill Strickland was here. The day that Malcolm was assassinated, the next day there were 11 daily newspapers in New York at the time. But the New York Times, the one that prints all the news that's fit to print, had a headline, and that headline said, "The Apostle of Hate is dead." Is that what they call Malcolm? Is that true, Bill? Did they call Malcolm the Apostle of Hate? Yeah. Did they say that Malcolm preached violence? And 30 years ago, Bill, the ADL had Malcolm X as the #1 black anti-Semite in America. Talk back to me. Malcolm exposed the fact that Spindon was at the head of the NAACP and these blacks were fronting. Didn't he expose it? Yes, sir. Yes, he did. That's right. Yes, he did. The dossier on Malcolm was he was the anti-Semite. Malcolm died or was assassinated. There are those of you that genuinely love Malcolm and genuinely honor his legacy and his place in history. But you don't have the power to raise Malcolm from the dead. You ain't got that power. You love him, but your love of Malcolm is just like people's love of Garvey and love of Du Bois. They haven't been able to raise them from the dead. I'm asking you now, who is Warner Brothers? Who is Warner Brothers? Are they Jewish? Why would a Jewish film company spend $30 million to make an icon of a man whom they said was the leading anti-Semite of his day and an apostle of hate? Think about that, brother. Think about that. 30 years ago, when Malcolm was assassinated, never did the name of Louis X come up as a potential party to the murder of Malcolm.
Make it plain.
Why now?
Right.
You know why?
Come on, son.
Let me tell you.
Tell it.
The government of America thought the Nation of Islam was dead, that it would never be revived, and many of you thought it would never be revived. You never gave me any credit for being what you see now, and still don't believe. Some laughed when I said I would rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by the grace and power of God. The FBI hadn't considered me. And for 7 years I worked underground. I never spoke to any newspaper, no radio, no television. I went to work. I traveled the length and breadth of this country by automobile, driving from one end to another, organizing. A reporter came to me one day and said, Farrakhan, we'd like to get a story. I said, I can't, I'm pregnant.
That's right. Listen.
He said, what do you mean? I never explained. Elijah Muhammad told me, he said, when a seed germinates in the earth, it sends a root down long before it sends a shoot up. Because the root down is what gives it stability in the earth. So when the shoot comes up and the natural forces comes against the shoot, it won't be able to be plucked up because its root is firm. I follow the general law of nature taught to me by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I did 7 years of work underground building the nation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I knew what my enemies would do, and so I outfought my enemies.
Yes, sir.
And by God's grace, outflanked my enemies.
Yes, sir.
And was building an army on the East Coast and the West Coast. When I say an army, I mean followers who would fight like hell for the cause that we believe in.
That's right.
Because I knew that I would be killed
That's right.
for raising Elijah Muhammad's name again. So I had to have a force that would be able to give as much as we get
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
in order to stay the hand of those who might do me harm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All of that was laid in my brain by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we began a rebuilding effort.
That's right.
And now, all over America, all over the world,
Yes, sir.
you find black people coming up, listening to the voice of Brother Farrakhan. White folks felt that they could always raise up a Negro,
Right. Yes, sir.
one of their trained SEALs,
Listen.
against any black voice that they didn't like.
That's right.
So when Malcolm was the strident voice of that day, they raised King. They raised the big six civil rights leaders to condemn Malcolm. Yes, they did. But they don't have that now.
No, sir.
Reverend Jackson cannot be raised to do that to Farrakhan.
That's right. That's right.
That's a fact.
That's right.
None of the so-called Negro leaders can be raised to do that to Farrakhan.
That's right.
Farrakhan is the first black leader to have a root down in the youth.
Yes, sir. That's right. Yes, sir.
I speak the language of the young as well as the language of the old. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
So how are we going to destroy Farrakhan, the modern apostle of hate? The modern chief black anti-Semite. We'll raise one from the dead and clean up his image. Just like the rabbi told me, he said, if you will give me a history of good words and good deeds, we'll clean up your image.
Think about that.
See, white folks got the power to clean, and they got the power to dirty. So they dirtied Malcolm's image, and then they went to work to clean it up. And now they've made Malcolm a civil rights leader. You know damn well Malcolm never was no civil rights leader. You gonna put Malcolm in some league with Martin Luther King Jr.? You know Malcolm didn't believe in that stuff. You couldn't get Malcolm to lay down in no street and let somebody beat the hell out of him and he gonna love them. You know better than that. Articles began to appear over the last 7 years in different papers, major newspapers, full-length articles on Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
Nothing wrong with that, but what's your motive?
Right. Listen. That's right. Check the motive.
As you began to build Malcolm's image across the nation, you made Malcolm an icon of black youth by carefully not telling black youth or white youth what Malcolm really taught.
That's right.
You know I'm telling the truth. True. Nobody out here knows what Malcolm taught, but many of you don't. Before he left the nation, or what Malcolm believed after he left the nation. All you know, he was a black man that stood strong. So you reduced him to a slogan, by any means necessary.
That's right.
Come on. Now, the X has become popular, so you got an X code, an X, but you haven't become an X-fool. Come on. An X-dope user. An X-woman user. Abuser. An X-kid. An X-pop. An X-thief. An X-con. Come on. So after they reached a certain point in producing Malcolm Mania, Spike Lee, a brilliant brother who loved Malcolm. Spike is a sincere man. He's strong, he's brave, he's committed. But Spike felt the nation killed Malcolm.
That's right.
He didn't say members of the nation.
Right.
The nation of Islam killed Malcolm. But what are you doing, Spike? What are you doing? These young brothers that are with me now, they weren't alive then, many of them. This is a new nation of Islam. So you're not after the old nation, the old leadership. You're after Farrakhan. So you're going to condemn the nation now. The nation killed Malcolm. Fine, we'll accept that. Let's go on now. What is your motive? So some Jewish people in Hollywood put $30 million in Spike Lee's hand. That's kin to the 30 pieces of silver. Take it or let it alone. Spike's earnest desire to present the Malcolm that he loved is used now into Carl Evans and other scholars. I don't know, pseudo or kudo or what. But it's interesting, ain't none of you walk with Malcolm.
That's right.
None. You liked him, but you wouldn't follow him.
Right. Think about that.
It's convenient now to put him on your wall,
Yes, sir.
because a dead man can't make demands on living people. So now the movie is made. And during the movie, I asked all my ministers, don't speak for 90 days. They expected us to attack the movie, to create the drama,
Right.
so that they could do what they really had in mind. And what they really had in mind was to come and bring Farrakhan out from behind Malcolm as one of his students and show Farrakhan as one who helped to murder Malcolm. What is your purpose? If you really thought that, why don't you arrest me?
Right.
Why don't you bring me into a court of law and charge me with a crime? You know you can't. So you want to kill me in the press. And you know that the young people love Malcolm. But the paradox is they love Farrakhan too. So, some Jewish commentators say the young people love Malcolm, and it's paradoxical. They love Farrakhan.
Right.
Don't they know it's Farrakhan who betrayed Malcolm?
Right. Listen.
That's perspective. I upheld my father.
Right. Yes, sir.
Malcolm was not my father.
That's right.
Any more than any of you that have been the victims of divorce. When your parents get ready to separate, the children sometimes are forced to choose between two parents that they love. Parents who divorce, you don't think sometimes of the pain that's on the children. It hurt me to choose between Malcolm and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I had no choice because Elijah Muhammad to me was the main player. Malcolm was his subordinate as I am today. And so I chose to follow the leader and to defend the leader. And I don't think that history will show that I'm wrong.
No, sir.
Because I don't believe that God would have brought me this far where I never thought I would go, never thought I would. To be now seen as the preeminent leader of black people in this country, not because I wanted it, but because my uncompromising, unyielding stand for truth has caused black people to see me in that kind of way. And that is what has the forces of evil petrified.
Yes, sir.
They want you to kill me.
Right.
They want me dead.
That's
But they want you to do it. So I'm going to close on this note.
Good teacher.
You want me dead.
Sir.
Everywhere I go, I hear you chanting. Who do you want? Farrakhan. How do you want it? Dead. I don't say that about you, but that's what you say about me. I close. You don't want me dead.
That's right. That's right.
Not if you know the consequences. Wait a minute. Saying this to my brother who raised the question about our killing of Malcolm. If I could change history, brother, I would go back and try to do it different. We would be so much better off if Malcolm were alive today. We would be so much better off if Martin Luther King were alive. But God knows best. When Malcolm said, I wish it was you being an example for me, rather than me being an example for him, I looked at that. And I studied Malcolm. So that when I began to rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I never attacked Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. And when Jesse repudiated me, I would never fight him back because I knew the consequence would be great division in our community that would lead to bloodshed. Malcolm died in my judgment that I might live. Not that that was his purpose in dying, but sometimes great men die, and God allows you to look at their lives and draw lessons from their lives and lessons from your errors or mistakes in life, that you might serve the cause of the liberation of your people better. I never had anything to do with Malcolm's death. But I can't lie to you that I was his friend when he died. That I was not. I was his enemy when he died because I felt him to be the enemy of black people by being the enemy of a man whom I believe God raised to save us all. If I am in error, if Elijah Muhammad is not that kind of man, then by what power do I now, in his name,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
transform human lives? Listen to me. No matter what you know of truth, you don't transform human life
That's right.
with what you know,
That's right.
but with what I have from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I talk to people and make a change in their lives. That is valuable.
Yes, sir. That's right.
And that's why they want me dead. I feel sorry for you because your effort to destroy me bears witness that you are the murderers of the prophets. And your efforts to destroy me bears witness that those of you who desire my death are no better than your fathers.
Right. That's right.
And because we quote from your writings in this book, you say that this book, through Professor Lewis Gates, has become the Bible of all anti-Semites. Professor Martin is not an anti-Semite.
That's right. That's right.
Professor Martin is a student of knowledge and a lover of his people and wants to see his people raised.
That's right.
If he saw fit to use some truth in this book for a class, Now look at what he has suffered.
That's right. That's right.
Look at what Leonard Jeffries has suffered.
That's right.
And look at what this young man has suffered just to bring me here. He has had death threats. That shows the real hate of real vicious people who want to keep all of us in the dark. So I leave you. I've written a book titled A Torchlight for America. I would love to talk about it, but I thought I talked about the things that I should talk about tonight.
Yes, sir.
But get the book,
Yes, sir.
read it, critique it, and let's discuss it. Don't let dialogue stop. Let dialogue begin, but let it begin on the basis of truth.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Black people, students, get yourself together. Don't flit away your time here in foolishness. Being a good party sister and party brother, your people need people of scholarship to lead them in the future. You have no time for a lot of foolishness. Put down the reefer, the alcohol, the pills, the crack, and clean up your life. Don't talk Malcolm and say you love Malcolm and don't want to be clean. Malcolm never smoked in all the years that I knew him. He never drank. He ate one meal a day. I never heard him swear till at the very end of his time in the nation. And then I only heard him say damn or hell. Not vile speech. I never saw Malcolm wink at a sister or disrespect a woman. So don't say you love Malcolm and are still living a low-down life. If you love Malcolm, clean up your life and read everything of value you can find in a library, but then get another perspective on your history. You've got to read John Henry Clark. You've got to read Ben Yochanan. You've got to read the brother from Washington. No. He passed away recently. Chancellor Williams. You have to read Cheikh Anta Diop. You have to read Professor Martin. You have to read Professor Bill Strickland. You have to read those who have made their life a testimony of struggle for the advancement of our people. And then you must go out of here not seeking white folk to give you a job. Come out of here with mind to create economic advantage for yourself and your people. No more should you condemn Koreans or Arabs or Jews or others in our community who are providing us with goods and services because we are not providing them for ourselves. Get busy and come home and provide the goods and services that your community needs. Then we can keep the money that's flowing out of our community in our community, that we can make our own community a decent place to live. To all of you who have given me your time and your attention, thank you for listening.
Give it to him, the Honorable Lord Farrakhan, brothers and sisters.
sisters, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. We have some closing announcements as you leave toward the doors. We're not going to attempt to hold you from departing the building, but we do remind you that the program for tonight has been provided for you by a consortium of some of the campus's most progressive black organizations. And we do, as Brother Corey is going to come before you in just a moment and let you know some ways that you can help in assisting them in furthering the cause of our people in the Springfield area. We do want to remind you that if you care to help the Honorable Louis Farrakhan in his effort in the Springfield and Western Massachusetts area, please call 737-2199 or visit Muhammad Mosque number 13 at 734 State Street each Sunday at 2 p.m. to follow more of the teachings of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.